Hey everybody, how's it going? It is Wednesday and it's time for the FPV chat. I appreciate you all joining me. Cool to see everybody here. And hopefully it sounds correct and right and everything is looking right. So we're just gonna stop through the chat here, see how everybody's doing. Let it get caught up. Then we'll start getting into some stuff we're gonna talk about today. Get seeds right here. Mr. Bike is here. Thank you for being here, sir. Eric Allen FPV. How goes it? It goes great, sir. Thank you so much. William Tam. Thanks for stopping by, man. Larry's here. Callie C's here. Larry says, I'm here for the smooth, relaxing sound of the Blunty voice box. I appreciate that, man. I hope my voice sounds okay today. Did a little bit of changes. I think it should have improved it. Added a little bit of compression and such, but we will find out from you fine folks in the chat. I'm going to check down here real quick. Great. Let's see. Medrone is here. Hi, Medrone. I don't think I've seen you here before. Larry's here. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. How's it going, man? Archangel. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Says, anyone know how to tell if you have too many LED lights for a 5-bolt pad on the flight controller? You want to look at the specs for the flight controller. The flight controller should have specs for the 5-volt rail. So that BEC is going to have an amp rating. And you're going to look up that amp rating, and then you're going to add up the amp rating of all the LEDs, and you're going to, I would say, give 10 to 20% of fudge room there. And that's about the limit of LEDs you can put on that 5-volt rail. Mark Emerson says, hey, Blunty. Hey, how's it going, Mark? William Carson, noise in the vid. Yeah, that is from the song, I think. Let's see. Yeah, Michael says it is part of the song. He is correct. Bill Grimes says, did you get your TPS order in at your website? So I have a website. It's WeSellQuadParts.com. That's just like you think it is. WeSellQuadParts.com. And I'm waiting on a TPS order. I did speak to TPS yesterday. And they said it should be about 7 to 10 days. I'm waiting on Tango 2 Pros and multi-protocol modules. And hopefully that'll be shipped. So I would guess in about 14 days I'll have a restock of a ton of TPS stuff. I'll be getting some Tangos in. I'll be getting some Tracers in. I'll be getting some Crossfire in. All kinds of TBS stuff. Get some peanut butter props. I'm going to try the P3s for the first time. So. Dog Life says power the LEDs with a 5-volt reg. Yep. Absolutely. Dan Richmond, sup Blunty? Sup Dan? How's it going, man? Dog Life. Dog Life. You'll probably be excited to know I have a dog camera. Where is my dog? My dog is not there. Let's turn that real quick. There's a dog. He's sleeping or laying on the cold floor today. That's Henry. This is the Henry cam. We have a dedicated Henry cam if we need it to. Everybody loves the Henry cam. So go right back here. All right. Let's do that for a little while. Just because is here. Hey, how's it going, man? Callie C. Sounds good. Looks good. Awesome. 5 o'clock somewhere. Asking about the puppy cam. Yeah, don't worry. We took care of that one. John Cuppy. John Cupie? Hello, Bluntly. It is Blunty, but I think a lot of people autocorrect to Bluntly, and that's fine. No big deal. Mark Emerson. Have you checked out the Sky Zone Cobra box goggle? I have looked at that a little bit. We're going to look at that on the new product roundup with Joshua Bardwell I'm doing with him. We're recording that tomorrow. I had some issues recording that today. But it does look like a cool box goggle. I've got to look more into the specs on it. Maybe we'll do that a little later in the stream. Let me pull that up so we don't forget. Sky Zone Cobra. Great. And then let's see where we're at. T-Bird FPV. What's up, man? What's up? How's it going? Matthew Savu. Hello. How's it going, man? Glass Pound. Kame Kala. Kame Kala? You the man. Thanks, man. I'm just here to help you guys. I'm happy to help. Any questions you guys got? Anything like that? So, Meadrun says new subscriber. Awesome, man. Good to hear. Ninja Monkey FPV. Let's see. Dan Richmond. Let's see. Ninja Monkey says most 5-volt or 2 amp. That is correct. Yeah, it depends on the flight controller, but typically you're going to see like 1 amp or 2 amp, maybe 1.5. I would always say check that flight controller spec just in case. X Pack 1946. How's it going, man? John Cookie says stream audio is excellent. Larry says 2 weeks, always 2 weeks. Yeah, it's pretty typical. 14 days is the TBS byline, as it were. Hopefully it's actually 2 weeks, though. Let's see. Zach Moore says, ever had a camera fully gray out after a nice crash? I have not, but I mean, unfortunately, if you check power and stuff, man, that's just it's kind of the life of cameras and analog equipment and digital equipment, to be honest with you, though. It seems my digital cameras have been more resilient, but yeah, if all the wiring is connected, everything's still got power. Unfortunately, I'd probably call the camera manufacturer or something. Depends on how long you had it. That sort of thing. Dog Life, what breed? It is a mainly pit bull and then German Shepherd is what Henry is. Just because said, what's the store name again? It's WeSellQuadParts.com. I'll put a link in the chat just so you guys can see it in case you want to go there. No pressure, but it is my website, and it does help me out if you buy stuff there. So I'm getting a little low on stock. I'm hoping that TBS order comes in pretty quick. Let's see. Arstang is here. How's it going, man? Robert Regal. Hey, man. Awesome. I'm so glad I was able to help you. Let's see. Erie 5. Let's see what we got here. Okay, thanks for the help. Success F7 shows 2.5 amps on the 5-volt. Yeah, you got plenty of room there. William Carson says, I need a good VTX. Mine burned up because 5-volt rail failed. Good VTXs. Rush Tank, I think, is definitely a solid VTX. The RDQ VTXs seem to be okay for like really cheap if you want to go cheap. I think if you want to go expensive, a TBS is excellent. It's hard to go wrong with the TBS. Yeah. Larry says, FPV Cycle website states that they are only ones with genuine TBS mini Immortal Ts. Is that still true? Hold on. I'll tell you. I will go check on the website. I cannot show you this part. But I will go check on the website and find out if I can buy them as a vendor, and I'll let you know. Yeah, so they do not sell to vendors. I can buy everything else that TBS sells, and I cannot buy that Immortal T, the Mini Mortal T. So it does appear that they are the only vendor that can sell the Mini Mortal T. There's another Immortal T antenna. TBS doesn't sell it, but it's the same size. Don't remember who makes it, but I assume that somebody else could stock that. But yeah. Erie 509 says, what do you think of the FreeSky X Lite if I had MPM or R9 or even Crossfire? Thanks for all you do. I'm still getting newly acquainted with the hobby. Love your input. I think an ACCST X Lite seems fine because it's got D8. If you go up, I mean, if you have a multi-protocol module, you're avoiding the issues. I think otherwise the controller seems fine. I'm not a game controller kind of person. I'm more of a bigger controller kind of person. Basically everything in my house is a large controller. But if you like the small controllers, I do think that the X Lite is a solid option. You know, there's the T Lite coming out and there's the Tango 2. The Tango 2 is probably the best game controller option. But the X Lite seems like a solid contender. Tons of people love that radio. So, Josh FPV says, evening, Blunty and Henry. How's it going, man? Patrick Ruan says, hey, y'all. How's it going, man? Bill Grimes. Betaflight can only control 32 separate LEDs, but 40 max for 2 amp. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. You should also be able to do, what do you call it? Series? No, parallel. I think if you wire them in parallel, you can control like however many you wire in the parallel as the first LED, and then the next set as the second LED. You have to double check that, but I believe that's the case. Patrick Garon says, Pit Mix are good dogs. They are, man. It's awesome. Top Gun FPV loves the dog cam. I love the dog cam too, man. It's super cool. I'm glad I could share Henry with you guys. He makes my day so much better. Ninja Monkey says we have a pit mastiff mix at my place. Mastiffs are cool, man. Any big dog is always misunderstood, I feel like. Lawrence Martin says hello. Hello, Lawrence Martin. William Carson, TBS range, how far? Okay, that's a loaded question. Miles, I think is the best answer. If you're talking about Crossfire, if you're talking about Tracer, probably not miles. Yeah, Crossfire is just going to be a long ass way. That's for sure. I don't know that I have a good number for you. You're going to outrun your video first. That's for sure. If you mean TBS video range, you could use a range calculator. Let's look up one of those and I will show you how to use that. And then just go down a lot, I think is the best rule there. But let's flip over to that view. Can we do this like this? Yes, we can. Okay, great. Let's see. Ba-ba-ba-ba-dee-ba-doo. All right. RF calculator. All you want to do is come in here and check your RF link range. So if we're on 5.8 gigahertz video, regardless of what VTX you have, it's actually putting out proper power. Okay, you use a dBm converter, so you could even do Google dBm to watt, or watt to dBm. Sorry, watt to dBm. You come in here and you say, I want to do 1 watt, and that's going to be 30 dBm. I'm going to do 500 milliwatt is 27 dBm. Okay, so then you're just going to come back and you're going to plug that in a calculator. So let's say we're at 1 watt on a 5.8 gigahertz VTX. I forgot that when I press these buttons, it changes my camera. That was smart. All right. So let's manually flip back and forth. If you could see here, you enter the watt amount on a calculator and you convert it and you'll get the total. So we're going to put in 30 for 1 watt on a 5.8. And we're going to do an RX antenna gain of whatever you have. So let's call it 2. TX antenna gain of 2, right? So you can just assign these, okay? Typically want to leave your link margin and RX sensitivity alone. But this can be informative, I guess the best way to put it is, if you want to look for your noise floor. But you kind of have to know what your noise floor is. Crossfire will tell you your noise floor for at least for 900 megahertz, and I think it will on 2.4 as well. Yeah, so we're going to get 2.5 kilometers of range on 5.8 gigahertz video in best conditions with 1 watt of power and a noise floor of -94. That's my understanding anyway of how this calculator works. So that's a good rough estimate. If you're trying to go a mile, right, on 5.8, you can need better antennas. So, you know, let's go receiving antennas. We probably don't want much more than 2. God, I did it again. Receiving antennas, we probably don't want much more than 2. But TX antennas like this, we could probably go 6 or even more. And suddenly you're going to see you get that mile, or we get even farther than that, right? So we're going to go up to like a 12 dB gain and get 2 miles out of that same thing. Whereas like a 2 dB gain Omni will get you 2.5 kilometers, like half a mile. So hopefully that helps out. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, Dan says get the TBS Unify and never worry. There we go. Let's see. Erie 509. If you had to choose as a beginner, X-Lite or Jumper T12 Pro. I don't like small radios, so for me it would be Jumper T12, but I think you have to consider the Tango 2 in that. I think I would probably buy a Tango 2 as a new pilot if I liked the game style controller. Every pilot that stays in the hobby for any length of time ends up on Crossfire. That's just the case. You maybe could argue that Tracer or Ghost is a better option right now, but I'm not willing to argue that yet. So yeah. William Carson says 2 patch antennas and 2 pagodas. So yeah, you want to plug in your dB gain average on both those antennas in the calculator. I'm guessing the patches are like 6 to 12, so you get a couple miles on the video depending on a clear area. Lawrence Martin says, I checked out your website the other day. I'll share some love soon. I'm thinking that Nostalgia Tango 2 case. So the clear antenna cover also. No, I keep forgetting to order the clear antenna cover. For some reason, it comes separately from the Nostalgia case, which I didn't realize when I ordered those. But I will put that on my next order. 100%. Erie says, I have baby man hands, so tiny I can't afford the Tango yet. Sadly, buying secondhand. Okay. Fair enough. In that case, probably X-Lite. X-Lite's probably easier to get secondhand. And if you get a good X-Lite, like an older, the red one that's ACCST, maybe the blue one as well, just the older ACCST one, get them to show you it does D8, and then you don't even need a multi-protocol module to fly whoops and stuff. I think it's a pretty good setup. Sardronic says, hey, how's it going, man? John Coopy, do you think while we're going to see a small version of the DJI Air unit suitable for whoops this year? I was just thinking I would love to have a DJI whoop. I would love to have a DJI whoop too. I have no freaking clue what DJI is doing. I don't think any of us really know what DJI is doing at this point. You know, we saw the leaks today. Let me pull this up real quick. We saw the leaks today of all the, you know, on Facebook, about 1 million different pictures of the DJI FPV drone. So I'm going to pull that up for you guys just so you can see it. We could talk about it. Hey, Cameron Smith, thanks so much for the subscription, man. Awesome. Oh, hey, Kemlin. Okay. I know who that is. Let's see. What am I doing? Come on, get my shit together. There we go. Okay. So my private Discord, you can get access to this if you're a patron or if you're not a patron. But you know, it's a patron area as well. But I throw all kinds of stuff in here, and I will shoot you an invite if you'd like to be here. So I have a DJI section, and today I've been posting all the leaks. Let's take a quick look. What do you guys think about these? So we've got the new controller that we saw before. We've got the old goggles, and we've got the new drone. Now, a lot of people were saying this was photoshopped. I think this is poor camera. And then this bottom box line, right, is where you slide the box up for DJI, you know? DJI kind of comes in a case and you slide it up. And then I think this controller is the leaked controller, and this is a piece of tape over the box, right? Not a cut of the image. So, seems real to me. And I say that because there's about 1 million more images so far. We've got this one in the box of still the V1 goggles, and we've got the new drone. We've got a prototype drone, or a checklist drone of the white version instead of the black version it looks like. with a checklist on it, possibly. We've got that same drone, it looks like, probably, in testing, outside flying. And then we've got one more picture of that drone on the ground over here. I think at this point, there's too many things for us to have a rumor going on. I feel like this is probably accurate. Boy, it sure seems like it is. You know, this is a lot of different images of the same thing. So I mean, the back is the same. Yeah, so seems like it's legit to me. And so the rumor is we've got 4K 60 frames per second. Let me pull that up too. I'm sure we've got that somewhere. I actually don't know where I have that. So let me try to find that. But yeah, so we've got rumors of 4K 60 frames per second on the side of the box. It's got GPS. It's got return to home. It's got 20-kilometer range listed on the side of the box. Quite a lot of things going on. So pretty interesting. Adjustable camera with the controller. You could adjust the camera tilt from 0 up. Lots of cool different things. Let me see if I can find my translation. Come on. Somewhere in here. Okay. 4K 60 pan tilt, 150 kilometer per hour max speed, GPS sensor assistance, 3-position switch. Don't know why that's useful. I guess it's just telling you got 3 different modes to fly in, probably. That's what that means. It's Chinese translation. 6S battery, 20-kilometer distance, 5-inch drone, rechargeable batteries. So, what we know so far. All right. All right, how does everybody feel about this? Are we blowing up in the chat? Let's see. There's Henry, making plenty of noise. Henry. Upset as always. Okay. Where are we at here? Sorry, I lost the point in the chat. Lawrence Martin says, what's up with the leaks about the new DJI FPV quad? I'm glad we just showed that. Robert Eagle, I've had good luck with the TVS Unify Pro 5G8. 5.8 V3 VTX. It's only 5 volt though. Yeah, there is should be a different version of that runs on high voltage, like a HV, I think is what it's called. B-Man says, what's up, man? How's it going? 5 o'clock summer says, just wired up 44 LED lights on the XXF7 with the LED distribution board. All nice and bright. No problem. Awesome, man. Good to hear. Glad we could get that figured out. Y'all Man Flights is here. How's it going, y'all man? Get Seeds right here. Wants to know what everybody's smoking tonight. Let's see. Raider FPV's here. How's it going, Raider? Keen RC's here. Let's see. Keyboard Cowboy. Oh, wow. So the Axie Duo Big Patch can go freaking far then. Neat. Yeah, basically you're looking at, as you increase the gain, you're tightening that pattern. So you're shooting farther out, but you're tightening the cones. You can't go out here. You got to make sure you're pointing, directly at your quad. Keyboard Cowboy says, agreed. Just went to Crossfire. William Carson says, Crossfire is so expensive though. Anybody selling a used one? You should hopefully be able to find some used ones still. I think a lot of them got snatched up. But you should still be able to find some used ones. So let me get back in the frame here. I'm a little down. There we go. Let's get my head in frame here a little bit more. Okay. Click a midget on frame. Sorry, little person. Ninja Monkey says, I'm still rocking my QX7S ACCST. Yeah, I still have 2 of those. They're a really good radio. Raider FB says, the goggles still looking just like V1. Yeah, I do expect the goggles to still be V1. If they are doing a V2, they're going to want to unload the old inventory. They probably wouldn't send previews out because I doubt they have the units to send the previews out. Yeah, that's kind of what I would expect. I expect there to still be a V2 announcement. I assume there'll be a V2 announcement because there were a lot of decent leaks on my side of things. But if not, we'll find out that a lot of my leaking sources are not great, and we can rearrange them. So, T-Bird says, did you see me and Ciati try to hook up Tracer Saturday? No, I did not. Never got it to work, then changed to Crossfire and worked fine. Interesting. Yeah, I did not see that. William Carson says, I'm subscribing now. Thanks, man. Dan Richmond says, I got original QX7, but upgraded to Hall gimbals. Love it, but only tried that in the X9D. Meterin says, I was surprised that the goggles weren't different looking. Yeah, I don't think that we're going to see the V2s yet. I think it's too early because we had the Huawei chip shortages. And the Huawei chip shortages are preventing them from pumping out enough goggles to provide with all the kits. So it doesn't make sense for them to have the 2 goggles with the kits because they wouldn't have any made yet. That's why we didn't see the release at Christmas, or rather at Thanksgiving for Black Friday, and why we aren't going to see one at Christmas most likely. Instead, we'll see it like January or February when they can actually produce enough V2 goggles to sell as a SKU. That's my guess. Aaron Frank says 3 or 4 inch for Emax Eco 1407 3300. Probably either one. I think that's more traditionally a 3-inch heavy. So I would say if it's a heavy 3-inch, like an Acrobat or something, carrying a decent camera, maybe 3-inch, otherwise 4-inch. Kelly C says it doesn't look like the controller would fit in that box with the drone and goggle. I mean, it's a really small controller. It's like a Tango 2 size. Yeah, I think it'll fit. Good Seeds right here is giving false information in the chat. That's always good. Ninja Monkey FPV. I just now updated the firmware on my QX7 last week. It's never been done since I got it 2 years ago. Beware that if you updated the firmware for the internal module to 2.x, you're not going to be able to bind, unfortunately, to the things that are 1.x. You have to update everything. Let's see. Patrick Rowan says Ciati FPV is live. Well, that's cool. I've had mine scheduled, so is what it is. Love Ciati. He's a cool guy. Kami Kala says you should put an FPV cam on him so we can see what he's barking at. Nothing. The answer is nothing. And of course, I say barking and he's barking. Henry, come on. Hey, hey, let's go. Henry, lay down. Good old dogs. It's about time for the roommate to get home, so he thinks every noise is the roommate. Karma says, I wonder if DJI limited FPV range to 12 kilometers because of control link limitations. But now with 900 megahertz, they can extend range to 20 kilometers. So Karma is talking about the rumor that Osita LV posted that says the game style controller, the new one that came with that, came in the, supposedly coming in the drone kit, would do 900 megahertz. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to know because if that's the case, then likely they would have to have a new receiver. So that would mean we have a new VTX, but we haven't seen any new VTX leaks at all. And that would also mean they need chipsets for those VTXs, which is why I don't think they included the V2 goggles. So it's hard for me to say that I would expect to see that. But I don't know. It's hard to know. It's hard to know. They should definitely be able to change the range limitation on the same VTX with just a software update. So we might see a software update come out with those, or there might be a private software update. Not sure. Jeffro FPV says pricey at $1476. Yeah, the rumor is $1476, like $1,500. So that would be, yeah, that would be essentially, you know, $520 for the goggles, which is what we currently pay now. So like what, $450 in a bundle is what you normally take off of that. So you're about $1,050, $1,050 left over. Then a couple $100 for the controller. Let's say $200 to $300. They're probably going to charge for that controller. So that means they're asking $700 or $800 in a bundle for this drone, if that's the correct price. So that's a lot of money. I don't know. Consumers will likely pay that. I mean, they're used to buying Inspires and stuff. So, but I don't know that any of us hobbyists. This is not meant for hobbyists, I think, is the best way to put that. Raider FPV says, I don't like the idea of a 20-kilometer range for the masses. I think most will abuse it. Not us, I'm saying, but the casual pilot that will buy the new drone. I think that's probably true. However, you know, most of the DJI drones can go that far as well. They don't have a range limit unless you set a range limit. They just have a limit on height because that's like a law limit. I would assume this drone will also have a height limit, but I guess we don't know that. Haschenberg says, tell me about the Galileo setting for GPS in Betaflight. I have no clue. Never used a GPS in Betaflight. Lawrence Martin. Yeah, it's asked about the price point. Yeah, it's been going around on the Facebooks and on Asita's posts and stuff. Let's see. Ray Donovan says, is the drone freestyle or just cinematic? I don't think we really know that. We haven't seen anybody fly it yet. I would assume it has to do freestyle of some sort, but I don't think it's great. I don't think DJI would put out an FPV drone that doesn't do freestyle at some point, but not really sure. Dog Life, do you know when the new Betaflight is getting released? There's not even a release candidate out as far as I know for 4.3, so I think we're going to be a little while. You could check the GitHub for Betaflight. There should be a target for 4.3 that shows the progress for that. Let's see. People are answering about Crossfire. Check FPV Exchange. I've heard that's a cool website. Probably check that out. FPV Marketplace on Facebook had a couple of the V1 Crossfire modules. Aschenberg says he set up Tracer on a few quads and can feel it for sure. Awesome. Diving Falcon says, shit just got here, so I said yes to V2. I just know that my sources told me V2's coming, and it wasn't just because V1 was canceled, so I feel like they were pretty solid. They had information about the goggle, and I don't think they were bullshitting, so we'll find out. That's all I can say. Let's see. Yeah, Jeffrey says the WAN was listed, and it converts to US, yep. FPV Noob, hey man, my quad will randomly start doing flips on some takeoffs. I'm about to swap motors, but wanted to see if you thought it might be my FC or ESC rather than my motors. It could be your ESC, I think is probably typical with that. It's likely not your FC commanding the thing to flip like that. It would do a runaway in Betaflight if it did that instead. Betaflight detects first cases like that and tries to stop them. So it's likely what's happening there is it's the ESC or the motor. I would just swap motor corners and see if the same motor flips. But if it's all the motors, I think that's a problem. Yeah, I would definitely just swap motors and see if that moves with the motor. If it doesn't move with the motor, I definitely think it's ESC. You can try doing settings like high DMAG compensation or 23 on timing, or lowering your startup power from 0.5 or 50% down. Timing on BLHeli S would be medium high, is 22.5, which is similar to 23. And that can help take some stress off the ESC and help the desyncs, which is what I assume that is. It's hard to know though without some troubleshooting. Keen RC says, have you checked out Cyclone FPV's frame, the Quattro? Let's see. I'll check it out. Where is it? Well, I can't just see the frame. All right, let's pull this up. When did this thing come out? Is this new or old or in between? Flip over here. We've got the Cyclone FPV Quattro Beast. This is the HD, I guess. Kind of reminds me of an Acrobrat, but the front brace isn't replaceable. I think the Brat's is. I assume these cross braces are for integrity when you hit the frame, so you can't break the arms, which I think is interesting because it's a unibody design, so you definitely don't want to break the arms. Air unit gets mounted sideways, so it's meant for the air unit. $70 is all right. It seems a little expensive, but it's a 4-inch frame, so seems cool. Interested to know when you build one how it comes out. Raider FPV says, I like the V1 controller. Feels good and no fail-safes. Can't complain. Got it cheap during Father's Day sale. Wouldn't dare pay full price for it, though. Yeah, I got mine at like 240, 230, I think is what I paid for mine. I got it on a deal on Amazon. And I'm happy with my DJI controller, but I would not pay, you know, $200 for it. So. Keith Drone says, hi from Rhode Island. How's it going, Keith? Dizzy, how's it going, man? Copter 612. Shepherd Pit Mix here. Great blend. Yeah, they are, man. Cool dog. Top Gun FPV. My Jimmy dog does that too. Like, we have neighbors. They live around us. Yeah, I know. He was abused. I got him as a rescue. I've said this before on stream, but I know some of you are new here. He's a rescue, and so he's learning. He's about 6.5, 6 3/4, somewhere in there. I got him when he was 5.5. So he is learning to be around people and that we have neighbors and, you know, those sorts of things. But, you know, abused dogs, unfortunately. You know, you do the best you can. You give him as much love as you can, and then you work around it. So just because says he's doing his job. Yeah, I know he is. He is. Dizzy, just thoughts on the new DJI leak. I did talk about that earlier. Maybe we'll come back to that near the end of the stream. William Carson says, the flipping, check the solder joints, even dust with iron can cause small shorts and freak your quad out. Yeah, I think part of that, swapping the motors kind of causes you to look at those sorts of things. Like you end up resoldering the joints and stuff. It kind of takes care of those issues, but that's a great point. Hey, Raider FPV just subscribed. Thanks so much, man. We're almost to 1,000 subs, 982 subscribers. Almost to 1,000 subscribers. Pretty cool, man. It's been about 2 months. I had about 100 subs 2 months ago. And we're almost about to hit 1,000, so that's pretty cool, man. Let's see. Oh, chat's picking up a little bit. All right. B-Man FPV. Hey, Blunty, you fly tiny whoops. I have the Mob 6 at 65mm, looking to get a 75mm. Any recommendations? All right, here's what I'll say. I would recommend typically the Tiny Hawk 2. However, I'm really getting frustrated with Emacs because it seems like quality is not there. People are in and out. My Tiny Hawk 2 lasted forever. I mean, I beat the crap out of it. I raced in series with it. However, a lot of people are having them quit very early. And the problem is the flight controllers are proprietary and shaped weird. The gyros are turned from the get-go. I think if you're looking at 75mm, I think you have to look at Beta 75 and expect to return it. Beta no QC very possibly might need to be returned. So, yeah, I think I would just consider Beta FPV, and then I think Newbie Drone is doing 75mm now. They have a 75mm frame. So, EK Ripper just subbed. Thanks so much, man. That's awesome. Let's see. Shenanigan. Just ripped the Alpha 85 HD DJI whoop. It's nice. Flies like ET100, but better. That's cool, man. I think it's a little heavy. That's my only concern with the Alpha 85. I haven't flown it, though. And I do like underpowered quads typically, so. Karma. That rib portion at the back of the new DJI drone looks like it could be a new air unit. Maybe, I'd assume that's some sort of, I don't know. I'd assume that's some sort of push through, like an air vent or something, or just a design, but it could very well be. Limited FPV subscribe. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. I think my sub count is behind, or my alerts are behind, one or the other. Let's find out which it is. My sub count is behind. All right. Where was I? Sorry, guys. L. Leston says, what are your thoughts about X-Lite Pro from Frisky? I talked about X-Lite a little bit earlier. I think it's all right. It doesn't do D8. It's got access. Probably the new ones have access, so they're sucks that they have access. It's unfortunate that they had to do all this extra BS. If you really want the X-Lite, I think you just buy the X-Lite, and then if you need to fly anything that's D8 or any other thing, you need to buy a light multi-protocol module to go in it. Otherwise, just buy a Tango 2. It's the same similar form factor. I think it's a better quality radio though. And I'd rather support TBS than Free Sky. I'm not giving Free Sky any money. So, Glass Pound. Maybe these are the new goggles and have AccuSync, and that thing on the top is the new air unit. It's possible. Yeah, I'm not thinking so, but it's possible. Since we don't see antennas, you'd think you'd see antennas coming out of it if they felt the need to expose the air unit. Biz FPV says digital spec racing quad. Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a good spec quad, but if they're $800 to $1,000 a piece, I don't know how many people are going to be buying them for spec races. Let's see. Raider FPV, I know, but that's photography. Would prefer FPV quads not get thrown into that bunch. Trying to separate us from photo quads doesn't make any sense. It's just stubborn. You are the same as a camera drone. Sorry. You're actually worse than a camera drone because you can't see your drone while you're flying it. You can just see the video from it. So if you lose video, you're fucked. I understand that you want to say that, like, oh, camera drone people are irresponsible, and FPV drone people are obviously more responsible because they had to build the drone or buy it and figure it all out, and it's so much harder. That doesn't mean shit. You can do way more dangerous shit with a FPV drone than you can with a camera drone. Sorry if you don't believe that's true, but it is. Again, I don't think most of the laws are about safety. I don't think most of the situations are about safety. But I think the idea that, like, somehow photography people are, like, shouldn't be lumped in with this is crazy. Unfortunately, we're all together in this. They're all drones. They're all going to be regulated the same way. Karma says, I look at the Tango 2. Yeah, 100%. Drone Droid says, but it's got that fancy Apple-esque packaging. That's got to be worth $200. Yeah, I know. Fortunately, DJI has gone that route. 5 o'clock somewhere says, do you fly DJI? Yes, I do fly DJI. I have not bought goggle upgrades, though. I'm okay with them, but I don't fly, like, long range. So, Raider FPV says, what's your main setup? What do you fly most? I fly, I guess most of the time I'm typically flying a TP3 on analog, or if I'm flying digital, just one of my 5 inches. The Skyliner HD seems to hold up really well, so I fly the Skyliner most of the time. But it really just depends on what I have available. I built a FPV Cycle Glide and broke it in 8 packs, but I really liked the Glide. So, M. Baldwin says, I just bought the DJI goggles a couple weeks ago. Hopefully the V2 aren't that much better. Yeah, I mean, it's very possible it's only HDMI out and minor upgrades. It's hard to know, though. If there is actually a 900 megahertz system, I would assume that would mean there's a new VTX, and it's possible that you need new goggles for that. Yeah, it's hard to know, though. Dan Richmond says, I get the trash can 75mm. Yeah, that's fair. And use a real 2S battery and XT30. At that point, man, just buy a toothpick. That's my opinion. L. Lesson says, I don't like the Tango 2 since I also fly planes. The switches are a little inconvenient. I mean, I think they're more convenient because you don't hit them by accident, to be honest. That said, I don't fly a Tango 2 because I don't like game controllers, but game controller style. Raider FPV. The new goggles will take a hit in the FOV department because folks want them smaller. I don't think that's true. I mean, maybe, but I doubt we'll see that happen. Guillermo's here. How's it going, Guillermo? Robert Rempel. Just time to light one up. Almost forgot your stream, Blunty. I'm glad you showed up, man. It's good to see you here. FPV Noob says, awesome. Thank you very much. Glad to help, man. A DJI system mount is pretty nuts. I agree. Top Gun FPV. Cyclone FPV is a good dude. Puts out a lot of good tutorial content and helps a lot with tuning. Awesome. It is a recent frame made in the US by Tarek. He cuts and preps and builds it in the house in the USA. Is it in the last month? Because I can put it in the new product roundup tomorrow. I'm not opposed to doing that. I'll put that on the list. How about that? I don't want to miss a product, so we'll talk to Bardwell about it. If there's any new products you want us to go over in the new product roundup, I am contributing to that since I'm part of it now. He kind of has me bring products to the roundup. If you don't know, I do a monthly new product roundup with Joshua Bardwell in addition to our weekly news segment. Henry! I know, we heard people again. It's crazy. They're our neighbors. I need to make a graphic and a thing I can cut to when the dog barks. Cyclone FPV Quattro. Okay, that is on the list. The goggle design won't change. I'm calling it. I agree with that. They're going to go the Fat Shark route, same design, all changes internal, HDMI out, OLED screens, etc. 100%. I do agree with that. I don't think we'd ever see a Fat Shark form factor, but I could totally be wrong. YouTube does this terrible thing where if you scroll down far enough in the chat, it just jumps to the bottom. And there's no way to make it stop doing that, but also scroll down so we could see. It's real smart. M. Baldwin, Medron says if you fly all winter on DJIs, you get all those months of enjoyment and you can always sell them. 100%. The DJI is not a regrettable purchase. I don't think there's any way to regret that purchase. Ryzik says, what's going on, Blunty? Puppy cam? Yes, I did have the puppy cam. He is wandering around being frustrated that my roommate isn't home yet. So he's all around the place. I'll put it back up for you though, no problem. Thanks for subbing there, Raider FPV. Robert Regal, any thoughts on the Armat and Marmot? Armat and Marmot. I like the Skyliner HD as far as what frames I like. I like the Armat and Chameleon. The Marmot seems like a super solid frame. I know a lot of people who fly the Apex. Apex is a good frame. The Rooster is a good frame. Lots of good freestyle frames out there. I'm thinking a lot of DJI compatible frames because that's what I fly, but Callie, press the like button. Thanks so much, man. Big Oily Guys here. How's it going, man? Thanks so much. Doing me crazy. All antenna setups have been designed around the front faceplate. I think it's going to be the same design, just OLED screens. Yep. I'm happy to be wrong. It'd be cool to be wrong. So, not opposed to being wrong. Luong Nguyen. I think that's how you say that. I'm not very good at those names. What's going on, Blunty? Big fan. Awesome. Good to see you here, man. Or woman. Person. Good to see our person. Dog life. Tiny Hawks rock, but the AIOs are whack. 100%. I wish they would just make more quads from Emacs with the standard flight controller. Have you ever reattached the UFL connector to the Vista? I have not. I do believe that's fairly straightforward, as long as you didn't rip any pads off, though. I think UFLs have a left and a right side, and then a middle. And so the left and the right side can be bridged together, but obviously they're across from each other, so you wouldn't expect that. Then the middle. Dog Life says order one off Amazon and return it if it dies within a month. Beta FPV hates me. Yeah, unfortunately, Beta FPV makes their own bed. Beta No QC, as I like to call them, decides to not do QC on their products before they send them out. I'll be happy to say that until the cows come home. I don't really care if they send me free product or not. Maybe they will to prove to me they have decent QC, but I'm still not going to believe it. I bought too many of their products. I've seen too many people buy their products. I've seen too many stores buy their products, and all of them consistently, if you ask them, say Beta FPV is unreliable. Sometimes you get a great product and it flies wonderfully and it's one of the best products you've flown and it's a great price. Other times you spend 3 months in a loop returning products and getting refunds. So, you know, you get what you pay for. That's what I'm going to say in that case. William Carson says, my Tiny Hawk started to fail motor 1 and it's the ESC. It sucks and they won't do anything about it. Yep, that's pretty typical of the Emacs AIOs. I have some buffering going on. Is anybody else getting some buffering? Just want to make sure we're still good. Kamikawa says the 75mm newbie drone is rad. Built 2 with 1 with old 18K KV and one with 20K KV, 10 times better than 65. Awesome to hear. I definitely want to try those out. I have some of the ASI props for the 40 millimeter. I just haven't put together a build yet. I've got to order the frame. Do Me Crazy said they'd be smart to redesign the air unit, do a 30 by 30 mountable. The current air unit is such a odd shape, pain to mount. Maybe 30 by 30, but I still feel like that's just too big. Like maybe 20 by 20, maybe 16 by 16, maybe 25 by 25 and a half, whatever, 25 by a half by 25 and a half, which would be good. Dizzy says Emacs does have great customer service, though, which I like. Some of these are other companies you get no reply when you have problems. I will say that I've had a lot of problems with Emacs customer service and heard others have, but also have had good service. So I think it really just depends on the day and who you end up talking to on the email side of things. Larry says, hi, Uncle Keith, drones in Rhode Island. Karma. I have a couple Badgers. I picked over Marmot because I wanted replaceable arms. That's a fair point, for sure. Definitely got to consider the unibody frames. Raider FPV says, I've grown to hate FreeSky over the 2 years in this hobby. They were cool at first. 100%. They seem to be anti-consumer. Yeah, it's just not cool, man. Ryzek says, hey, was wondering if you might have a good idea on a 5-inch build for beginners. My 12-inch son wants to get into the hobby and wanted to start with the build. I really, the build that I would recommend has got to be the Bardwell build, the $250 Xylo bundle from Bardwell. He has an entire video on exactly how to build it, so you could even let your son go wild and just watch the videos if you wanted to have him learn on his own, so it's like not a hard barrier to entry. If you want to help him, then there's guidelines in case you guys get messed up. Bardwell does direct support on those kits because of the names on them. Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to go. Let's see. Upgrade. Dan Richmond is talking about the trash can, I believe. Upgrade the camera to Run Cam Nano 2. That's perfect 2S whoop. I definitely agree with that. It's definitely better. Yeah, the Run Nano 2 is a solid camera. iFlight Sedora is an inexpensive 5-inch quad, for sure. Yeah, iFlight's got some good stuff. I just don't have much experience with those frames, so it's hard for me to call out everything. Raider FPV says, Blunty's going off with me. I don't mean to go off on you, that's for sure. Just telling you like I feel it. Huff19 FPV is here. What's up, y'all? What's up, Huff FPV? Huff19 FPV. Let's see. Ryzex says, way more dangerous shit with an FPV drone. Cinematic drones are like bumper cars compared to a 5-inch. That's 100% true. A lot of camera drones don't even let you hurt somebody. John Reed says, do you think the lack of DJI stock could be there holding them back for pairing with the new drone? Do you think the new SKU could just be a small revision? Yeah, it's hard to know. It's really hard to know. Unfortunately, I wish I had a better answer for you. Robert Rempel says, got mites, get SNS 209. SNS definitely works. You got to spray the shit out of them, though. We're going to take a quick detour into Grow Talk. I think a lot of people don't understand how mites and root aphids and things like that breed or live. Just spraying something once with rosemary oil does not kill shit. They don't care that much about rosemary oil. They don't care that much about thyme, okay? What you have to do is repeatedly coat the bug, okay? That's the whole idea. If you repeatedly coat the bug with something like a soybean oil or a mint or whatever bullshit, okay, not only will they not like it, but they'll also not be able to breathe because most of them breathe through the air holes on their back, especially aphids or mites. So make sure that you're spraying and coating and coating and coating and coating. If you wash them off with water, it's possible that oil will get washed away and you're going to lose some of the coat. So food for thought there, but make sure you're coating well to get rid of mites. It works much better than just spraying oil. Let's see. DJI goggles are great. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about those, getting them. Everybody should be happy with DJI, that's for sure. Ryzek says, anyone heard anything so far about FAA and remote ID? No, remote ID rule will be coming sometime in December. I would expect it to be right near the end of the month, up to their deadline. I think the deadline is the end of the month. So, Cyclone dropped an HD whoop. Okay, I'll check that out. Is it a bind and fly? Drones frames. Still set on Martian 220. Still selling a STEM education bundle. Okay. I do not see that, so give me some more information than that. Maybe I'll check it out. Let's see. Keen RC, I'll contact you once I build mine. Awesome. Glad to hear. JT says, what are we talking about today? Everything. Whatever you guys want to talk about. Anything and everything. I'm trying to catch up with chat. I gotta get there. Robert Rimple says, Henry was my dad's name. Good dog. Awesome, man. Henry is a good dog, that's for sure. Keeps disappearing on us, though. That's for sure. Let's see. Dizzy says, that makes sense. Upgraded internals for their drones. Designs don't change much. Yep, I agree. Typically, you just see the inside, like the Mini 2 was basically only inside upgrades, but quite a bit different. William Carson says, got to go. Thanks, man. Awesome. Good to see you here. Glad you were here. Drone Droid says, new VTX, new goggles. That sounds like DJI. Backwards compatibility is not the prosumer way. Nope, nobody said that. V2 goggles will definitely be backwards compatible. They would be insane not to be backwards compatible. Yeah, I would put $1,000 on the fact that the V2 goggle from DJI will be backwards compatible with V1. I do not think the VTX will be compatible with the V1 goggle. I don't see that happening. I mean, it could, but I assume the technology will change enough. But I do think the V2 goggle will go to the V1 Air unit and the V1 Vista. Roll down and back up, because that's how YouTube works. Carlos is here. Hey, Carlos, how's it going? Raider FPV, best 729 I spent on this hobby was when that Father's Day sale, I had to jump on it. No regrets getting the DJI setup. D-Zone message retracted. We'll never know what D-Zone says. Drone Droid, that YouTube scroll jump is horrible. It sure is. Ninja Monkey FPV says gank multi-rotors. I just was hearing about them a little bit. I will put them on the list to check out. See what they have going on over there. Huff 19 FPV says, I figure it's like buying a big screen TV. Once you buy a badass one, you don't really need one for a while. 100%, man. Like, you're not going to be disappointed by owning the system. So, Ryzek says, there's Henry. Oh, hold on a minute. And he's back. Ryzek says, there's the Henry dog. He looks similar to my pit named Meatball. 2.5 times bigger. Your dog's 2.5 times bigger? Because that would be crazy. Ninja Monkey says, legit, beta FPV is hit or miss. Yep, just telling it like it is, man. Karma says, my pre-built 85X had screws up into the motor windings. Luckily, I expected it before test flight. Yeah, they definitely didn't inspect it, that's for sure. Adam Boswick says, hey, it's Blunty. What are some goggle antennas I should try? Looking for the new best thing. If you just want to buy some new shit for DJI, I assume you're asking. Yeah, for DJI, I would say you want to get the Axie HDs. They just stick to the front, and they come with circular polarized for the bottom. So we did have some lag and buffering there, but it did skip. Interesting. Let me know if that happens again, guys, for sure. It says my stream bitrate is low as well, so maybe we should turn that up for the next stream. I will give that a shot. And a Bosswick showing up to say I also fly analog. Okay. The new hotness on analog. I don't think there's much new hotness. I would probably just say like a true RC patch antenna or a X-Air. It's probably like an X-Air 2 is probably the best antenna for analog for a goggle. Drone Droid says, thoughts on Radio Master now selling a fleet of different TX-16s that are basically identical, awfully reminiscent of Free Sky a few years ago. I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's a big deal with it. As long as they're all compatible, which they are, seems fine to me. They can offer what they want. It just costs them money to add SKUs, not, not us. And they are selling kits to upgrade, like, to the max. They're selling all those components separately, so. Dog Life says, dry out the exoskeleton and the buggers die. Alcohol water mix every 2 days. Also a good option, for sure. It depends on how late you are in flower. You typically don't want to spray alcohol on your buds. But then again, hopefully you don't have spider mites that late. So, Free Range Chicken RC says, finally caught a live with my new favorite FPV guru. Thanks, man. So happy you're here. Kamikala says, wow, one-stop shop. Drone answers, grower answers. I'm happy to answer anything like that for you guys. I have a decent background and a few different things, so. Robert Rempel, in reply to something, says, it mixes in with the nutrients and just feed normally. It works its way through the plant. I've used it before and it works great, not foliar feed. I'm going to call bullshit on that. Sorry, bud. That sounds like grower horseshit. I've been in the industry, the legal industry, for 8 years. You cannot feed SNS on roots and get rid of mites. I've worked in a 25,000 square foot grow facility for 7, 8 years. It does not work. If it worked, you also got rid of mites for some other reason. But SNS is not systemic through the plant. Imagine if it was. Imagine the other effects that you'd have, right? What pathways are they moving through? What chemicals are moving up through the plant? How is the oil moving? What action is the oil having on the bug when it eats it? What's the problem with the bug eating the oil? How does the bug eat the oil when it drains the sap? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think if you look at the science behind these cases, I don't think you'll find much evidence there. Anecdotal is not scientific. Drone Droid says, every remote ID rules will be released after everyone has finished their Christmas shopping. Yeah, probably. Will the DJI Air Unit work with the HGLRC Batman 220? DJI Air Unit will work with anything as long as it's 4S. You could run it to VBAT, or 6S, you need a regulator. And then you need a 2 amp regulator. And then, let's see. Yeah, you need a 2 amp regulator, and then you also need a free UART for the OSD. Copter 612, Skyliner HD is your favorite DJI frame? Yeah, by like a mile. At least the ones I've used, it's actually sturdy, it actually holds up, and it flies well. But I haven't flown that many frames, so one guy can only fly so many frames. Metron says, Blunty needs 10 more subscribers. Yeah, my live subscriber count has just died for some reason. That's real helpful. Let's just take that. That's not even helpful. But we will get there. Let's double check on that since we can't actually see the live subscribers. 993, we're 7 away. Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome. Let's see. Raider FPV. I like the new Moongoat frame. Looks legit. William Carson. Diatomaceous earth kills bugs with exoskeletons. It's like glass, gets in the joints and cuts them to pieces. I got them drawn back in, so I'm back. Gank and optimized drone. Yeah, the issue with diatomaceous earth is it's a freaking mess. Gets everywhere. And unless you're in early veg veg or super early flower, you really don't want to put it on your plants. Because it'll get all up in your buds. It's good for like coating the soil, that sort of thing. Let's see. Oh, we did get a subscriber coming through. Miguel Weiss. Thanks so much for the subscription, man. Hydromar's Lights FC series. Mars FC. I'm not familiar with that panel, but I can tell you a couple things about LEDs. One is that you need to kind of learn to grow. Once you learn to grow under LEDs, I think you'll do good. You do have to feed a little bit differently because they feed differently. Also, depending on your spectrum, you're going to have different bushing or different stretching, right? Because you're like if you grow with a double-ended that's very red versus a LED is going to be whatever spectrum you're picking, like a blurple or a white or whatever, right? Tyler Harris, thanks so much for the subscription, man. You could also do, man, keep losing my train of thought. Let's see. You could also, Biz FPV, thanks so much, guys. You guys are killing it. Are we there yet? Jesus. 997, 3 more. Awesome. We are on the cusp. Digiblur, DIY just subscribed. Thanks so much, man. So LEDs, that's where we were. The other thing I would say is cobs are so cheap these days that you can just buy cobs and build your own LEDs. Just toss a heatsink on the top, and it's really simple. And I think I would probably build cob panels if I was growing at home or growing on a small scale. For a large scale, I don't have a great favorite LED panel. I think a lot of them are way too expensive right now for what you're going to get out of them. The problem with LED also is throw. Remember, just like in drones where you have an inverse square law when you go out a distance, right? So like, every 3 dB is 1.4 times range instead of doubling range, even though you're doubling power, right? So you need 4 times the power to double the range. That's the same as the inverse square law in lights. So as you go farther out, you lose a lot more light. And so in that case, when you have point source lighting that's very intense, it degrades better when it comes out from the single point versus LED has all the separate points. And so you degrade much faster because you're degrading exponentially down. So just something to consider. You want to get close to the canopy so you're getting proper penetration. Top Gun FPV sent me a link. I will check that out after the stream. James Larry stopped by to say he's going to miss the live stream. Cool, man. Thanks so much for stopping by. Bill Grimes says, have you seen the 7-coil DJI antenna or antenna for DJI? Yeah, man. Those there's like a 3, a 5, and a 7-coil helix a couple guys have made. I saw at least one RC shim tested. Yeah, seems pretty cool. I don't do long range not for me, but definitely seems cool. Brandon Ullman, what is the max weight or ideal weight for a 5-inch 6S freestyle for good huckability? For good huck, I assume you mean you fly up and huck the quad to get throw on the quad. I would say probably like all up like 650. Like get some real good huck. Like 580, 590, 600 is still got huck, but you're getting lighter. Something like that. Not a goo-goo. I have powdery mildew, but I don't mind the flavor. I sure hope you mind the flavor. Good old mildew. What's up, Blunty? Vic and Air says, horse shit is good for mushrooms. That is true. Absolutely. Cyclone FPV. Tarek dropped 2 new DJI micros. He has a Revelation 85 HD 2-inch with prop guards and the 107 without guards. They both run Cadex Vista. I mean, they're cool, but it's just too heavy, man. I don't want to run a Cadex Vista on a 75mm or an 85mm. A 107, I don't know what that frame is. I'll have to check that out. So, let's see. Tyler Harris is here. Sup, how's it going, man? Robert Rimple, 30 years growing here too, 57 now. I did not say you lied, Robert Rimple. I said I have seen it not work. So it's not always the case. And there is the thing called anecdotal evidence. A lot of people don't think they're lying about a lot of things that they're wrong about. That's called life. John Reed says, Blunty, what's the best option for analog for DJI goggles? I use the UAV adapter, but I think the BDI Digi adapter is probably the best option. Let's see. Solo FPV, what's up, Blunty? How's it going, man? Did you blur FPV? YouTube recommended your channel. Awesome, man. So cool. Vic and Air, what's your opinion on 5S on 3800 kV 1507 motor on a relatively beefy Brat V2? Could definitely do that. I would assume that's because you're having trouble on 4S. So you could also use a pitcher or prop. That's a pretty big motor. Probably get away with a pitcher or prop. Brandon Ullman, 4S or 6S, which has better throttle resolution or feel? They both have the same if you match the KVs. So it's just based on KV. We have broken 1,000 subscribers. Awesome, guys. I just want to say real quick, Henry appreciates this too. It's just been really cool to outcry of support you guys have done. I know I'm over on Bardwell's channel, but you guys have just been, it's been really cool to see you guys come out and support me and just hang out on these live streams and stuff. You know, we're averaging like 100 people today, which is just crazy. You know, the last stream I had 80. I think the last stream I had 65 or 70. It's just awesome, man. So I'm glad you guys are here. I'm going to keep streaming for you. It's just, yeah, super cool. Ciati is fine, man. It's not his bad. BeepTube says Ciati is my bad. He's totally fine, man. Huff19 FPV says, I'm fucking loving the drone to marijuana grow convos. Yeah, man. I'm happy to provide them. Vic and Air FPV says, flies great, but I had hot motors in the summer. That's fair. I would kind of want to size up motors in that case. Man, we're getting all kinds of subs done. Lads, thank you so much for the subscription. Yeah, I would probably maybe, you know, think about going up on those motor size. I know traditionally that's the size. So Dauntless H just subscribed. Thanks so much, Dauntless. That's awesome. Patrick Ron says, came here to say Ciati said sorry. Ciati does not have to apologize. David Tavares, I'll talk to Ciati. It looks like Ciati sent a squad over here, man. That's awesome. Private Island FPV's here. Richard's here. Aber the Ham's here. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for coming by. Big Oily guys helping me get subs. Robert Rempel. Trimming the plant correctly is key when using LEDs, for sure, man. It's just a different process. You kind of have to learn to grow under LEDs. Johnny J subscribe. You guys are awesome, dude. I just got, man, this is awesome. Aber the Ham, I like my quads chunky. That's fair, man. I like, yeah. Top Gun FPV says, damn it, Blunty, that's some good info on lights. Taking notes for spring. Yeah, just what I've seen, you know. I can only give you the experience that I have personally and from being a paid cannabis consultant and from running a 25,000 square foot facility for, you know, 8 years. So. Patrick Rowan says, 1,000 subs. It's awesome, man. I'm so happy. Got another sub. JMat FPV is here. Aber the Ham says, most of mine are around 700 all up weight. June Loco 619 says, what could be causing my Vista to freeze at arm? Either you have really bad power. So if your Vista is powered off of VBAT, maybe you have a giant draw on the Vista. If your Vista is powered off of the BEC on the board, maybe you're overdrawing the BEC on the board or it's a bad BEC. I would consider adding a capacitor. It's also possible that it's from the low power switch. So you could try turning off low power mode on the Vista so it doesn't toggle. Yeah, something like that. Give those a shot. Let me know how those work out for you. Private Island says 1,000. BeepTube says 998. It's awesome, man. Dauntless says 1,000. Johnny J, let's go. Tyler Harris, Kev FPV, Brandon's Big Beans, Johnny J. You guys are awesome, man. MKE Drones, Me Drone, Private Island, Nemesis, Karma, Brandon's. That's awesome. You guys are... Thanks so much, Ciati, for crashing my stream, man. 1 million subs. B2, let's go for 1 million. Me Drone says, we're here for history. 5,000 by New Year. I don't think we're going to go that fast, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be moving up. Huff19, you've earned this, man. Keith Drones, you've done a great stream. Awesome, guys. Awesome. Ciati's putting out the word. My colleague says YouTube said I might like this channel. They weren't wrong. I'm very glad you're here, man. Archangel, thanks, Blunty, for keeping me sane while I trim. I'm happy to be here for you, man. Qbax CPU says thank you. Go Play Online says sup, Blunty. Amax, man, all kinds of people are here. This is awesome. Drone Droid says we need more intelligent people sharing information. Thank you for your service, man. I'm happy. Any videos you guys need made, any information, any questions, any concerns, I'm here to answer them. So, Dauntless H, I was already subbed, but I wanted to see if that sub thing worked. Well, it definitely works, man. And thank you so much for resubbing. Caustic FPV. Do you think a 5-inch running 2306 Eco 2 1900 kV on 4S will be too weak for freestyle? Absolutely not. I'm going to do a quick rant. I like a lot flying 4S on 6S motors. One of my favorite quads has been the FPV Cycle Glide. I flew for 8 packs. I had 1870 kV motors and I flew on 4S. You'll see that Mr. Steele actually just did a video about 4S on 6S quad. And he had S3s on the quad. It was still able to fly it. I think if you have any kind of pitchy prop at all that's not like an S3, you'd be totally fine. I run fairly pitchy props, but I run like a low battery compared to the KV. So I think it's a blast. I think you should definitely give it a shot. I mean, the worst case is you don't like it. But yeah, I think it's a blast. Also, it's a lot easier to not break equipment because you're running 4S on 6S, so you're not even close to the voltage that everything can handle. Don Ladd says, Ciati sent me. Awesome, man. Ciati's a boss. If none of you here know who Ciati is, maybe you were here already and somehow you don't know who Ciati is. I don't really know how that would happen. But Ciati FPV is a wonderful streamer, is a wonderful guy. He's a great person. He works his ass off. I work about 1/10 as much as Ciati does because he streams constantly all the time. E-Doc just subscribed. Thank you so much, man. Go show Ciati FPV some love. You better send him some messages. Go subscribe to his Patreon. Ciati's a boss, man. Schnoid says, I'm only here to see Henry. I'm glad I could provide that service. Aber the Ham says, could you explain the difference between throttle cap and motor output limit? I hear motor output limit effectively decreases KV, but I don't really get how that works from a conceptual standpoint. So essentially, all that's happening is throttle cap says, hey, whenever you move your throttle up based on scale or clip, limit, I can't remember what the terms are, but basically you can either scale or cap it somewhere. But if you scale it, let's say, okay, you scale the throttle to 75%. That means as you're moving that throttle up, okay, that throttle goes up to the top, and at the top is 75% of your motor power, okay, and then down scales. But the PIDs don't know anything about that. The PIDs don't use your throttle value, your current or past throttle values if you're in air mode. They just use what they need to use to move the quad around. So that means they're going to control the motors from 0 to 100% output. So motor output limit says, let's cap the output of the motor instead of the throttle. So what happens instead is you say, I'm going to cap my motor to 75% output. So the PIDs ramp up. And as the PIDs ramp up, they're going to ramp, and then they're going to stop at 75% of that motor output. So they hit right where a 4S quad or whatever, right? Or the correct KV would stop at for the top end. Now, from my understanding, the difference between a motor output limited quad and a standard KV'd quad is that the motor output limited quad is going to get to the set point faster because the motors are going to ramp faster. So, and this is sort of taken up before by PIDs, but typically you're going to want to think about it as the motor output limit is we're ramping up really quickly, and instead of going past that point, we just cut it. And then that's where we're at. So typically your tune is the same. And that's what's interesting is like, so if I take a 6S quad and I motor output limit it and I put a 4S battery on it, I'm sorry, if I take a 4S quad and I motor output limit and I put a 6S battery on it, I'm still going to have the same flight experience and I'm still going to have the same tune. I'm just going to have a quicker cap, essentially. That's the idea. I hope that made sense. Bill Grimes says, I ordered seeds and custom stole them. If you talk to our buddy Get Seeds right here, just after you in the chat, I'm sure he could help you out. T-Bird FPV, on this Beta 75X rebuild, I have a 1202 10,000 kV. Would that be smoother than 1103 8,000 kV running 3S? That's a lot of kV, I would say. I guess it's a 12. That's a lot of kV on 3S. I would think 1103s would be smoother. Though you could probably motor output limit and not notice much of a difference there. Shameless FPV says, Betaflight, EmuFlight, KISS, etc. Do you try different firmwares, or how locked in are you? Right now, I'm pretty much Betaflight only. I have tried EmuFlight for like my Tiny Hawk 2s and stuff, and I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on. But lately, I've just been Betaflight because it's a lot easier to work with one thing. And Betaflight, once you understand it, it takes 5 minutes to set up a quad at the most, because they're much of the same filtering. Vic and Aaron says, I'm glad that you approve. I thought I was just getting close to blowing up my rig. 5S on a 3-inch seemed cray, but it flies great. Yeah, I think it's fine. If it flies great, it flies great. That's what I would say. Pretty Fly for White Guys here. Awesome to up to 110 watchers. Yeah, man, it's super cool. DJ Dubs, what's up? Blunty, what's up, DJ Dubs? Let's see. Drone Droid sounds like he knows what motor output limit is. Brendan Ullman, max KB for 5S. That depends on prop size. But max KV is just relative to prop size and also to your ESC and to the build. Bardwell has a build on 6S, 2700 KV. So realistically, that's on 5-inch. So it really just depends what you're going for. Let's see. Oh my God, chat. Why do you keep scrolling, chat? I think we're in the right spot. Karma, when I want chill flying, I fly 3S batteries on my 4S builds. Yeah, 100%. I think it's just easier to be smooth. I don't use the top end of the throttle that much. And if you're not saving yourself constantly, then yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. Raider FPV, I run some 2306, 2450 kV on 5S, truly rips balls. And that's about the highest I think I'd go on 5S, depends on picture props. Yeah, people get crazy, man. That's for sure. Bald Man says, I don't know who Ciati is, but I know who Blunty is. Bald Man. Glad to see you here, man. Thanks so much. Ciati is the Micro King, that's for sure. S. Grace says, the Micro King. Let's see. Top Gun FPV, what's up, Bald Man? What's up, Bald Man? Drone Droid, let's see. Aber the Ham says, oh, the PID loop is limited in the motor output limit, but not in the throttle cap. That makes perfect sense. Yep, happy to explain that for you. Ryzex, been a part of this channel for a bit, and it's been a huge help during the time I've been into FPV. You helped me gain tons of knowledge and have the patience of a saint with my daily dumb questions. There aren't dumb, a lot of people say this, and it can be cliche or whatever, but I really think a lot of questions like can't be dumb. I think the dumb thing is to repeat questions. Like as long as you're learning, that's the whole point. It's only dumb because you don't know in some respect. Like, yeah, that's silly. So always ask the questions you want to ask. I'm happy to answer them. If any of you need to ask any questions, you can always message me. Some of you have my Discord. I'll put a link to my Discord in the chat here in a minute. You know, you're also welcome to message me on email. It's bluntyfpv@gmail.com. Yeah, man, I'm here to help you guys. So. Hold on. You can also message me on YouTube. I think that's a thing you can do. Okay. And we'll just paste this in the chat if anybody would like to join my Discord. I do have a special Patreon section on there if you'd like to join my Patreon for just $3 a month. But if not, you're welcome to hop in and chat with people in my Discord. Ciati FPV was an awesome dude to meet, says Pretty Fly for a White Guy. I met him in DC at the FAA protest. He's a cool guy. All the interactions I've had with him have been awesome. So, Not a Gugu says my ex-girlfriend says prop size doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't know why she's X, because that's you need to find and someone else who feels the same way. Adam Rusin says, "Hey dude, love your work. What do you think of the DJI snail racing drone? I can't tell if it's a new thing or old and untrustworthy." I'm assuming you're talking about the leaks. It definitely is new. Oh, the snail racing drone propulsion system. I think this is old, yeah. Yeah, the snail was something from... So the snail and the Tacon were from like 2016, 2017. And yeah, that's basically an old thing that DJI was doing back in the day, so... Callie C, I just set my motor output limit to 75% yesterday on my 3S TP3 1303 and feel like I can control it better in tight areas. Yeah, I actually run 2S on my TP3, but yeah, pretty similar. It would be 66% instead of 75% pretty much. So, Robert Rempel's out. Time to go. See you later, man. Take it easy. DJ Dub says, "What's your website for drone parts?" It's WeSellQuadParts.com. That's QUAD. WeSellQuadParts.com. Aber the Ham says, "If you ask questions, you're a complete moron. I, like all non-morons, was born with all the knowledge." Yes. Kami Kala says, "Without divulging your area, are you in Cali?" I'm happy to tell people I'm in Denver, Colorado. I have a Quad Parts website online, so I'm not ashamed. Vic and Air FPV says, "Thanks to Raider." Pretty Fly for White Guy says, "When is your new Beagle drone coming in?" Yeah, I don't know that Beagle's going to send me a drone after what I said on the news, but maybe they will. Who knows? All right. Finally made it to the bottom of chat. So that means I get to flip over and look at another screen that I have. And this screen has ideas for this stream. Let's see what we're going to talk about today. I did want to talk about a couple different things. All right. I would actually like to talk about today, I would like to ask everyone in chat a question. I am curious to know if you in chat would rather have, if you had a choice, let's say you've got, I don't know, $400. You need to buy a goggle and a radio. You already have a drone, don't worry about compatibility. You need a goggle and a radio, okay? Do you buy, maybe $600, I don't know, something like that. Do you buy an expensive goggle and a cheap radio? Or do you buy a cheap radio and an expensive goggle? Or do you try to spend like mid-range on both things? I'm curious to see what you guys think. I have my own opinions, but I'd love to know what you think before I say them. We're talking about, honestly, I think used or new, I don't think it matters. I think if a pilot is looking, I think they're going to look to spend money in the goggle category, or they're going to look to spend money in the drone or in the radio category. Because they're seeing things like a Tango 2, a Crossfire, and Tracer, and Ghost, or they're seeing things like DJI FPV, or they're seeing things like the HDO2, or they're seeing things like the Orca, so. I like how everybody here is like under the goal of price. That's so interesting. EV300O is a good choice. Interesting. Cheap radio, cheap goggles. Mix, it looks like cheap both. Yeah, Scouts on a Tyrannus QX7 for under 400. Expensive goggle, cheap radio. Mid-range, but more on the goggle. It's interesting. A lot of people seem to have different opinions here. Expensive goggles. Tango 2 and whatever goggle is cheap. This is great. Totally arguing with each other. Or totally opposite opinions. This is exactly what I expected. Super interesting. Devin T just subscribed. That's awesome. So he's down 3. Goggles are changing so much at the moment. Digital, better radio, best DJI. Okay. All right, so let me tell you guys real quick. My thoughts on this are I would most likely buy TX16S and then whatever leftover money, I would look at how much I had left and see if decent goggles are an option. If not, I think I would probably buy cheap goggles and a cheap radio or cheapish radio, like a TX16S and like a EV800D. I think some people recommended that. I think that's a great goggle still for $100. Yeah, and then I would look at putting that money into another goggle and try to resell the 800D. It's just really hard. I think expensive goggles are the way to go. But having a shitty radio, you can't go anywhere on the expensive goggle. You know, it's really a catch-22 in this hobby. Because to get anywhere, you need Crossfire, Tracer, or Ghost, right? Realistically, or R9, but most people are not trying to buy R9 as new. So yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. Keith Jones mentions the T-Lite $60 radio. I think that's also a solid option. For the price, it's just so cheap. But we just don't know build quality, right? Though it's not competing with the Beta FPV Lite Radio 2. It's got a lot more options, so. Expensive goggle and cheap radio. TX16S and spend the remainder on goggles. Tango 2 with multi-protocol module. Goggles move forward faster if you want to upgrade them first. Yeah, lots of different thoughts. Pretty Fly for White Guy says you can find the EV800D for as low as $80 now. That's awesome. That's an excellent price. Yeah, I think it's just hard because you don't want to hit a half step, right? And then you have like a half step goggle. And then it's hard to get rid of because most people don't want a half step goggle. They want a lower high-end goggle. So then you have to figure out, can I resell this thing? How much am I going to get for it versus like reselling an 800D? Like an EV800D holds crazy value. I'm sure you can still sell one for $70 or $80. So even if you could buy a new one for $80 because you don't have to pay shipping, or you do have to pay shipping, but I'll pay, that sort of thing. So Biz FPV says any expensive goggle will be obsolete in 6 months. Well, I mean, maybe that's true now because of what goggles are available, but the DJI goggle has been going good for a year, so. Dan Richmond says Cyclone is what looks like an 800D, but only $40. Maybe not real diversity. Yeah, I believe it's antenna diversity, not true diversity. So it's not actually mixing. It's just swapping between the signals. Like it's not picking the best signal necessarily. It's like cutting in and out between them. Yeah, it's like actually pulling it from the antenna line. So. Skyster says you can see through the fuzz of a crappy goggle, but you can't fly through a failsafe on a crappy radio. That's true. Definitely. Caustic says I fly DJI goggles on TX16S, and I've never had a range issue, but I like to fly freestyle and not so much long range. Yeah, 100%. I think especially it's hard because a lot of new pilots get in and they just want to crank it and go like 2, 3, 4 miles. And so if you're going to want to do that, you've got to have good both, But for most people who are doing freestyle around the yard, around the park, yeah, most stuff is going to work well. And in that case, I think DJI goggles are the best option if you can afford them because they look so nice. $5 Summer says, I feel like I'd rather spend more on the goggle because you need to see good crystal clear picture. I can steer a quad with any remote, but video quality is more important. So it sounds like we're coming to a conclusion of as long as you're not fail-safing, get better goggles. If you're close to fail-safing, get better radio, which I guess makes sense, right? William Carson says, I'm sorry, what is VTS protection on a Mamba flight controller? Not sure, but I will look it up for you. I got another subscriber. Thank you so much, guys. Alex Murphy. Thank you so much for the subscription. Let's see. VTS protection. So now we got to think. Does that actually mean VTX protection? And like the BECs are protected somehow? Could also be like a voltage transformer protection. Not 100% sure on that one. I will put that on my list though and try to figure out what the heck that means. Can always message Diatone. I do purchase from them. Dan Richmond, my first goggles were adapter on my Android phone. Man, I can't imagine the lag. Drondroid says, I flew LOS for years before goggles existed. Definitely want to be locked in with TX. Yeah, I cannot fly line of sight. So doesn't much matter for me in that situation. Pretty fly for a white guy. 800D can be used as an observer screen. Yeah, that's like the whole, I think that's the whole point of the 800Ds for sure. An observer screen thing is awesome for bench tests. Five o'clock somewhere says, I'm working on a way to move my air unit from quad to quad with sliding clips, the DJI harness plug, and a twist clamp for the camera. Saves $150 per quad. I think it's possible. I do think it's possible. I just think a lot of frames are not designed to do that. So you're spending X amount of time every time you want to fly to swap it out. But if that's something that makes sense to you versus spending $150 per quad, I definitely think that makes sense. Carlos, I purchased more goggles than radios. I've only owned 3 radios. Interesting. I've only owned 2 goggles, but I have 5 radios? 4 radios. I have a T16, a DJI radio, and 2 QX7s. Biz FPV says I've been using a Dom V3 for 5 years. Can see fine. Yep. Yeah, those seem like solid goggles. Drone says beginners will want better goggles. They won't really be able to tell the difference in TX quality. That's true. Yeah, as long as you're not fail-safing, for sure. Huff19 FPV says you'd have to be pot committed if you're going to dump your primary budget on goggles before a radio. Yes. Adam Boswick says, I see it as you can buy an awesome radio after a month of practice with a lower end one and never need to buy a goggle again. That's fair. Depends on which goggle you get. William Carson says, I don't know, and what is BEC? BEC is battery eliminator circuit, so it just means the thing that generates 5 volts from your battery voltage. That's a BEC. Christopher Hopkins, I started with FlySky FSI6X and line of sight, then found goggles on sale before a recent hike, then upgraded radio to TX16S. And you came quite a ways there. Drone Droid says, HD1 over here. Totally agree with that. What Biz FPV said. Pretty Fly for White Guy says, I started LOS. It was a rough start. I lost a few quads line of sight. I always found them eventually. Line of sight is nice to know how to fly, but it's very different skill than flying FPV. Yeah, I tend to lean with Bardwell on this one. I don't think there's any point in learning line of sight. Especially for me, like I'm waiting on diopters, but they should be here any day, so I won't even be able to take off my goggles and see the drone. Which doesn't help much. William Carson, I have EV300D and I love it, but must upgrade to Crossfire module. In the radio, I assume. Radar FPV, I still rocking HD2s when I fly analog. I love them. Yeah, there's some good goggles out there for some older goggles. So it's interesting. A lot of you guys are basically saying that, like, yeah, there's still some good mid-range analog goggles. Don't fret. Huff19 says, I'm going from Fat Shark Scouts to DJI. All the while, I'm using a QX7S. Yeah, QX7S is a solid radio. I think Ciotti still uses a QX7 as his like daily driver radio. Like if my T16 broke, I'd immediately jump back to the QX7 and not be sad about it. I think it's a great radio. Callie C says, I like the control the TP3 has on 2S, but I like the weight and flight time on 3S 450. Getting 10 minutes of flight time. I tried the 66% motor cut first, but felt like I lost too much on full throttle punch. That's fair. Brandon Oman says, I'm in Denver too. Favorite Denver flying spots. I don't get around a lot. I think anyone in Denver would be remiss from not including Kurian in the list. But other than Kurian, most of the DTC spots are cool, but most people are breaking quads down there. So that's concrete for you. Other than that, just random parks, I think is probably the best option. I'm up a little bit north, so I don't get down to DTC much. So I just kind of walk down to my local park as long as nobody's there and rip it up. Richard says, yes, he does QX7. Dan Jones says, EV800Ds were my first goggles after the Emax goggles that came with the Tiny Hack RTF. Still use them as my DVR and give them to people to watch. Great goggle to accompany my SkyZone 030. Yeah, I think it's also something to consider that the better goggle you start with, if you're going to upgrade, then you still have a ride-along goggle if you're not going to resell that goggle. So. Aqualine says, anyone you know try putting Yagi UDA antennas on a DJI controller to try and keep up with the goggle's range? I have not. I'm sure that's fine. It's just typically that on a controller, you don't want to put a Yagi, you don't want to put like a directional antenna, because if somehow you got the wrong direction, you would just fail safe. Whereas video, it drops out and comes back in. Then you can kind of turn your head to get it back, so. Abraham says, I love my X-Lite, but the TX16S made me switch to pinching after nearly 5 years, and now I can't go back. Absolutely in love with the Radiomaster. Yeah, my pincher, I'm like a hybrid pincher. Sometimes I'll put my thumb there and kind of crank with the thumb, but I always go back to the pinch. Richard says, I ran QX7 on Tracer. Keen RC says, QX7 on Crossfire. Let's see. Old Mad Maxla says Mercari is a great place to find used goggles. Got a pair of Fat Shark Scouts for $130 in perfect condition. Set up alerts for new listings so you don't miss potential deals. Yeah, like Let Go, Mercari, there's a few other ones, but yeah, those local like sales apps. I think it's cool to set up alerts. That being said, like even in Denver is pretty popular. I think there's like 2 FPV items a month on those things posted, but it's worth a shot. Devin G says, looking for 4-inch T-mount props. Is there an adapter you can use non-T-mount props on T-mount motor? No adapter that I know of. I would probably look at FPV Cycle. They definitely should have 4-inch T-mounts unless they're out. Keen RC says, when are we going to have an It's Blunty frame? I'm ready. Unless somebody decides to put my name on their frame, I can't imagine that happening. There's too many frames, man. Like, I don't know. I'd rather innovate somewhere else. I know frames it's cheaper to innovate, but I'd rather like, you know, make TVS diode board or something. I don't think my time would be best spent on a frame. It's not my thing. Drone Droid says, still have ADDI V2 for ride-alongs. Usually seniors passing by in the park. That's awesome, man. I think I look like too much of a delinquent or like a druggie or whatever sometimes, so sometimes they don't want to talk to me. Pretty Fly for a White Guy says, Clear Creek Canyon was my spot. Once you get out of Jefferson County, there are no drone restrictions in Clear Creek County open space. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Says, can you touch briefly on your aux channel switch layout for modes? Aux 1 is ARM. Aux 2, I mean, you know, ARM, and then I have a pre-ARM. I like to do the top right switch on a T16, TX16, SQX7, the momentary switch. So you hold the momentary, and then you ARM, and you let go of the momentary. So the momentary is pre-ARM. And then I typically have one for flight modes, just in case I ever wanted to use angle, but angle and acro. Then I'll typically have a crash flip and a beeper. Let's see. Where are we here? AMAX. Older guys like me have not much choice. We need focus, up to +6 adjustable mostly. Yeah, diopters are typically the way I think a lot of people end up going with that. William Carson, what's the long distance module again that I can go a half mile, 1 mile, a half mile again? Guessing you mean 1.5 miles. Crossfire is typically what you want if you care anything about long range. Tracer can probably get that distance. Ghost can probably I should definitely be able to get that distance, but Huff 19 says too many frames, not enough time, money to build fly. Yep, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, Karma says Gemfan Hurricane 4-inch props can run on T-mount or center nut. They have a little plastic piece that sticks in the middle. Yeah, Gemfan specifically makes like the Wind Dancer, the Hurricane, that have that little pressy bit in the middle. It's definitely pretty cool. Aber the Ham, its blunty frame would 100% need to have a bowl incorporated. Yeah, but then, yeah, definitely. Skysurf FPV says, put your name on a canvas product then instead of a drone. Yep, just have no idea how that would work. Copter 612, tell us more about TVS diodes. Short and sweet. TVS diode blocks the voltage from spiking. It literally just clamps the voltage at a certain level and dumps it as heat. Like uses all the rest of it as heat. So TVS diode will clamp like 35 volts, so anything like a 38 volt spike comes in, it gets seen as 35 volts out the other side of the TVS diode, and the rest of the 3 volts gets dumped as heat. I do believe when they hit a certain heat level, they'll stop clamping as much, but I don't know enough about that to give you great information. MKE Drones says, I know you've only been in FPV for 11 months, but do you have any drone background before that? Electronics background? No drone background before that at all. I bought a Mini the same month I bought FPV. Mistake there. The only electronics background I have is just like personal, like cool. I like cool shit. I do HVAC. I do like IT. I do data stuff. I do PLC systems, so like low voltage controls wiring. And a lot of that led me into the world of understanding low voltage and how DC works and stuff like that. So I did have a little bit of a push forward on that, but I just like to learn stuff. So I dove in head first. Drone Droid says, we have a similar look other than color. I'm a full ginger beard and an extra decade of receding hairline. Brandon Ullman says, Curry in Denver spot. Yep, Curry in Capital. If you look up Curry in Capital. Tonomoto says, where's the dog? He is still being nervous over in the hallway. I think you can see him now. Also can't wait till we can super chat you, Keen says. Yeah, we are getting there. These streams are really killing it, man. Basically, I need to get to 4,000 hours watched now that I have 1,000 subscribers, because you guys are awesome. And last time I looked, I was at 1150. 3 weeks ago, I was at 300. So We're on track to be monetized in about, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. And if you guys keep watching the streams like you are, it's going to be even faster. So, old Mad Maxlow just subscribed. Thanks so much, man. Yeah, the dog heard enough FPV. QBack CPU says, what's your recommendation on 6-plant setup? Hydro versus soil, LED versus CFL. If your choice is LED or CFL, LED is my answer. You're going to cost more money though. It's going to cost way more money to do LEDs, but if you want to spend the money, buy LEDs. CFLs are old tech, not worth the time. Hydro versus soil. If you want to do one of the two, I would do soil. I like cocoa perlite, but cocoa perlite takes a little more skill. You need to learn. Feeding a nutrient line in cocoa perlite is not going to give you the same result as feeding a nutrient line in soil, or just doing soil set it and forget it with a proper no-till setup. If you really want to grow proper cannabis without learning too much, I really think a no-till or like a light till soil, like a super soil, is the best way to go. Like feeds itself. I personally grow cocoa perlite, but it's because I know what I'm doing and I know exact salt mixes and stuff, and you can really get it dialed in. But if you don't know that, the soil, like a super soil or an organic, like a no-till, does it for you. There's very little work. So, Schulier L says, how difficult is it to make your own antenna? I would recommend you look at RC Model Reviews. He has some antenna videos. That's XJet, Bruce Simpson, RC Model Reviews. I believe he talks about how you would make an antenna. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't believe it's too difficult. You just have to get the links right for tuning for like half wave and quarter wave frequencies. And his videos can explain why and how. William Carson says, I meant goggles. Sorry, what's a good goggle module to help me get a little bit more distance? Fusion or rapid fire are going to be the longest, pretty much. Let's see. Abraham says TBS diode caps voltage, whereas capacitor caps. No, capacitor doesn't cap voltage. Capacitor just absorbs spikes. Like capacitor just basically is a repository, I guess is the best way to put it. So it smooths the voltage, but like, let's see, you're going up to 55 from 35 and down to 35. Okay, maybe you'll only go up to 45, depending on how long it is, and down to 35. But you're still going to get the spike. A TVS diode is actually hard cutting the voltage with a clamp, and it's dumping the heat. So two different concepts. Depends on who you talk to. Yeah, it really just depends on who you talk to as to like if you need a capacitor with a TBS diode or not. Some people say it's a sales tactic, some to try to sell a capacitor as well. I don't know how much money you're making on capacitors. I think that's kind of crazy, but yeah. Pretty fly for white guy rebinds Key NRC. You can join my Patreon, patreon.com/itsblunty. If you'd like to, that'd be cool. Robert Regal says drone would be smoking. Yeah, that'd be cool to do, some kind of smoking drone. Huff19 FPV says, has anyone had to do the inverter mod on the QX7? What's the degree of difficulty? I'm comfortable soldering on a Tiny Hawk Freestyle 2. Any harder than that? That's about right. I would say you're fine. It's not that hard. Do remember that the only downside of not having the inverter mod is that you don't have proper telemetry. As long as you keep your baud rate up at 400K or whatever it is, as long as you don't change that baud rate down, then the only thing you have is slow telemetry. You still have normal signal. If you don't care about telemetry, which I don't think you even need to do the inverter mod if you're worried about breaking your radio. If you do want to do the inverter mod, yeah, then you'll need to do that. The main thing people do is they reduce their baud rate, and when you reduce the baud rate, you then reduce or increase the latency on Crossfire to fix the telemetry. Old Man Maxwell says, you're 11 months in. Same here, and it's consumed my life. Cheers, mate. Yeah, man, 11 months in. Christmas is my anniversary, so we're coming up on the 12 months. Again, this chat just jumping down. Jeremiah Blackwell's here. Hey, Jeremiah, how's it going? Medrone, what kind of flux? Paste, liquid, or pen? Flux all day for me is the liquid flux in the tube, so I can squeeze it. I think it's much easier to work with. Richard says desoldering the transistor was the hardest part. Yeah, you've got to put heat in there, and if you're not comfortable with it, you've got to get all the legs off. It can be a little nerve-wracking. Jeremiah Blackwell says, what about ebb and flow hydroponics? Yeah, ebb and flow is great. The thing about, I'll just say again, about hydro versus like a soilless medium like a cocoa perlite, it's a little easier to work with, and then a soiled medium is the easiest to work with, okay? There's a bunch of different reasons why this is. I could go into heavy detail, but I'm just going to say a couple things here. One is that water has no cation exchange capacity. So your water carries what's in the water, and as the water moves through, whatever, right? The water is the water, okay? So if you overnutrient or undernutrient or whatever, that is the water has that ppm and pH throughout the water. A soilless medium. Now suddenly you have a rhizosphere. Okay, now you have a separate area of pH and ppm. Because the plant starts to put out root exudates in that range, whereas the root exudates, when you're in water, go all over the room, or all over the water, throughout the water. The root exudates in soil or soilless mediums go locally in the rhizosphere. That's why you see local rhizosphere changes in pH, and you can't sample rhizosphere for soil slurries and cocoa slurries the same way you can for the outside. That being said, the things to consider are like a soilless medium has something called a cation exchange capacity. Okay, cations are the little ions of nutrients that come through and fall through the pot. So normally what happens is your water goes through the pot, all your nutrients go through the pot, and everything drains out the bottom. Okay, so why do your nutrients stay? That's because of cation exchange capacity. Your cocoa has a certain level of cation exchange, and it has the ability to exchange ions in the cation sites, essentially, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know, I'm not perfect here. But one of the biggest issues is if you don't have washed cocoa, you have bad salts in those cation exchange sites. In addition, stronger ions will stay stuck in cation exchange sites if they're not used. So if you have the wrong feed, you can fill up those ion sites and have less available nutrients that the plant would want. Now when we talk about moving to full organics, okay, you have a soil or a full organic medium like a no-till. Instead, the root exudates and the plant is doing the whole job. So the plant's putting out root exudates, which are like local sugars and hormones that cause the right things to grow, the right bacteria and organisms to grow in the pot. And they'll break down the available plant material and matter in the pot to make the right nutrients for the plant. That means you don't have to know what the nutrients are. The plant will decide what nutrients it needs and make them for itself through the availability in the pot and root exudates. I hope that gives a little more perspective into the difference. Dan Jones FPV says, yep, all about the links of the active elements. Sakeo Droner? Dumb question. Have a Roma with GPS. I don't run a GoPro. Should I mount the battery more forward or add dummy weight? If it's really off-center, then yes, you should move the battery forward. But otherwise, just fly the quad. I don't think you're going to notice. IB Crazy DIY threads on RC groups. IB Crazy is great. IB Crazy is, I believe, Alex Grieve, which is VAS Antennas, Video Aerial Systems. If you look up Video Aerial Systems on YouTube, they also have some great videos. Old Man Maxlo says, move bat, no dead weight. Yep. William Carson says, thanks, you're awesome. I can't believe 11 months now. I want to be a YouTuber, and I don't know enough. Yeah, I just spent most of my 11 months sitting on Discord, troubleshooting, learning, listening to other people make mistakes, and buying a bunch of garbage that you see behind me, most of which doesn't work now. Richard says, I tried a heat gun and flux, but not hot enough. I'm assuming you mean for that mod. Yeah, pretty fly for a white guy. Never add weight. I definitely think that's a good rule. Keen RC says inverter mod only needed for ACCST radios, but not needed for access radios. Also, full size crossfire, I believe, doesn't need mod. Only the light. Yes. So the ACCST radios are the only ones that need the mod. That is correct. You can, but the full size still need it. It just depends on, like, all the crossfires need it. It just depends on the radio you have. One way you can check is just plug in the crossfire, bind to the drone, and see if you're getting telemetry warnings. Your radio will be yelling at you about telemetry. Drone Droid says, I've never used Flux, Rosin Core 6337 high heat. Yeah, there's a couple of situations I've ran into where it's just easier than taking all the, like, I put too much heat on, or I made a mistake, or there's old solder, and and it's much easier to, like, add flux and try to work with the situation you got than try to rip it all off, but each one works. That's probably my inability to solder well. Old Man Maxwell says, how do you clean the flux from the rosin core, or don't bother? You should get no clean flux and not bother. Make sure your rosin core is no clean. EBR FPV's here. How's it going, man? BeepTube says, Brondo has what plants crave. A lot of people seem confused by my conversation about plants. Sorry to interrupt your FPV with plant conversation there. Try and fly and just subscribe. Thanks so much, man. Dog Life says, soil all the way, keep it simple, and do not overwater. I think for a noob, I would just say solder. Or soil, rather. Just Because says, wow, it's Blunty, I'm impressed on your soil hydro knowledge. Yeah, man, when you get paid as a consultant and you work in a building for 8 years, if you don't learn this shit, you're an idiot. That's sorry. There's a lot of these guys who work in this industry for 15, 20, 30 years, and they're professional consultants, and people pay them a lot of money, and they don't do shit. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't have a recipe. They don't understand what they're doing. They just use old superstition. It's very common in this industry, so I'm happy to educate myself. Cubac CPU says, wow, man, wow, thanks, man. Do you pump air to the pots? Yeah, in any kind of hydro system, you want to make sure the water has plenty of air. If you're doing an ebb and flow, you could probably just aerate the water in the ebb and flow, like where it drains to. However, if you're putting fresh water in constantly, like if you're doing a recirculating where it's the same water, you want to have air stones there. The problem with air stones is heat. You want to cool your air pumps, or make sure your air pumps aren't getting super hot. That's where a nice air pump can help, because you're just gonna pump heat through the hot air into that water. And if you don't have the perfect environment, like if your water's not cool enough, you don't have enough oxygen already, then you're going to create algae and mold and gross shit, slime, like right at the point where that stone comes out. I've seen that so many times. Flying Ram says, most inexperienced indoor growers overwater and overfeed. Yep, absolutely. What do you mean I don't need 2,000 ppm? Let's see. What do you mean 800 of that isn't available to the plant in any way? What do you mean I'm over on nitrogen by 300 ppm? What do you mean my plants are way too dark? What is nitrogen claw? Etc. Old Man Maxlow says, I'm good at soldering, just perhaps the rosin core I've used is messier than others. Little silver balls for the win. Yeah, be careful about those, man. William Carson says, my wife says you sound just like me now, or vice versa, boys and their toys. Pretty Fly for White Guy says, I use the TBS solder. Yeah, the I use the Kester 6337. I think Kester's really good. Try and fly and see her. How's it going, man? Cost of gift FPV. Does anyone still measure a bag of weed by fingers? Personally, maybe, but definitely not at the stores. I do not think the state of Colorado recognizes fingers as a measurement. All right, guys, it is 8:06 here. That is going to be it for me. I think it's been just over 2 hours on the stream. You can join me here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. MST for the stream. And we'll get to talk about whatever we want. You guys are welcome to come here and talk about it. Bike says, boomers still say 4 fingers to a lid. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, again, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. Tell your friends about the channel. Hopefully we can get some more reviews on the streams, but if not, we'll get there eventually. No big deal. I'm going to try to up the bitrate for next week's stream. Hopefully you don't have any more hiccups. I think I changed the camera okay. The dog wasn't here most of the time, but hey, that's all we can do is do the best we can and have the camera there available if we need it. Oh, look, he moved on you guys. Here we go. Here we go. So what are you talking about? So... all right, guys. Once again, thank you so much. My website is WeSellQuadParts.com. That's WeSellQuadParts. Also, I have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/itsblunty. It would really help me out if you guys went over there and threw some money in that. It just makes us more legit and makes me possibly be able to do this for a living. I don't really want to make extra money. I just want to make enough money to pay bills and eat food so that I could do this instead of having to work, which is pretty cool. So right now we're cannabis consulting instead. So have a great day, everybody. And thank you so much for stopping in. DTFPVs. I'll see you there. Thanks so much.